So can we please have a warm round of applause for Molly Allman?
Okay, so I love the Brontes. I love the worlds and stories they created. I love that they were from Yorkshire. I love that they were working class. And as one of three sisters who spent a lot of time in made-up worlds in my childhood, I feel a sort of kinship with them. So, like, completely earnestly, from the heart, the Brontes, Yorkshire's finest. They grew up in the village of Haworth in West Yorkshire, where Patrick, aka Papa Bronte, served as the parish priest for 41 years. The parsonage is today a fantastic museum. I have ranked the key Brontes in top trump style for your convenience. So Papa Bronte didn't need a pseudonym because of the man thing, but he was born Bronte and changed his name to include the fancy E to hide his lower class background. Sickliness 0 out of 10 because he outlived his entire family and survived a cataract operation with no anaesthetic in 1846. Charlotte published under the name Currer Bell and perhaps is the most famous because she's the author of Jane Eyre, everyone's favourite romance novel with a mad wife in the attic. She was the only Bronte to marry, but sadly died a year after her wedding. Branwell Bronte was a talented artist and did the painting of the sisters that was on the title slide. We would have a matching picture of him, but he painted himself out like a fucking emo, so we have to look at the gap where he should be. His sickliness was exacerbated by his love of opium and alcohol, which worsened the TB that killed him. Emily Bronte wrote Wuthering Heights, everyone's favourite potentially incestuous Gothic romance, under the name of Ellis Bell. She once properly bollocked Charlotte for reading her poetry and took a lot of persuading to publish it. She also died of TB after catching a cold at her brother's funeral. Anne, who looks a lot like Taylor Swift here, wrote 2 novels, one of which involved a woman leaving her husband for abusive behaviour and is considered one of the first feminist novels. She's less famous than her sisters because Charlotte stopped her second novel being published because she thought it wasn't very good, like a dick. Other family members include Maria and Elizabeth, who were young children they died in childhood, Maria Branwell and Tabby, who was their housekeeper. In their childhood, the Brontes invented entire worlds. This is a map of Glasstown that was drawn by Branwell when they were younger. Later there was Angria, and when playing, Charlotte and Branwell relegated the younger Emily and Anne to minor roles, so they staged a rebellion and created Gondal. These words inspired the Brontes to write masses of fiction and poetry. Some was written in these like tiny books and magazines that were meant to be read by the Toby soldiers that had inspired the whole thing. This was like the start of fantasy and also fan fiction. They put real people in their fantasy worlds. They are inexorably linked with Haworth. Almost every shop and cafe down the main street has some mention of them, and rightly so. That's the pub in which Branwell drank himself to death. That's still standing at the top of the hill. As children and as adults, the Brontes spent a lot of time in Haworth's surrounding countryside. Bottom left is the Bronte waterfall, where Emily is said to have sat and written. It's such a popular tourist destination that all the signs have Japanese translations because thousands of people come from all over the world every year. They are inseparable from the art they created because it was so heavily influenced by real experiences. The story of the Bronte family itself is like an epic Gothic novel. So like Cowan Bridge School, which led to the deaths of Maria and Elizabeth Bronte, became Lowood, the school in which Jane Eyre is sent to and her best friend dies. Charlotte's experience as a governess became Jane's experiences. A child threw a Bible at Charlotte, and so Jane has a book thrown at her. When teaching at a boarding school in Brussels, Charlotte fell in love with Constantine Heger, a married professor who ran the school with his wife. She wrote him like loads of letters that he never replied to. And this led to Charlotte's imaginatively named book, The Professor, which sort of was informed by these experiences. Anne also worked as a governess, and so her first book is about her experiences as a governess. She got Branwell a job as a tutor with the family she worked for. He then had an affair with the married lady of the house, who was actually called Mrs. Robinson. And Anne found out she left her job, though stayed in contact with the children she looked after. The abusive, alcoholic husband featured in Anne's second novel shares many similarities with Branwell, and Anne's experiences nursing him towards the end of his life are repeated in Helen caring for her husband. That was a sketch that Branwell drew on his deathbed. He decided to die standing up as a testament to human willpower, because he was a fucking emo. There are also elements of Branwell's self-destruction in Heathcliff, but more than that, the characters and settings in Wuthering Heights are taken from the Yorkshire landscape that Emily loved so much. Forgive me for being wanky, but like, nature basically is a character in Wuthering Heights. She just really liked moors. I don't think that the Bronte sisters were remarkable women. I think it was women that they had the opportunity to be remarkable. Patrick Bronte invested time in the minds of his children, regardless of gender, and encouraged education and imagination. If I could go back in time, I would go to Haworth Parsonage and watch those grubby, weird northern children playing in their imaginary worlds. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you can see others on the Bettakultcha YouTube channel. Subscribe now and you'll be notified when new ones are uploaded.